Hello there, it's LaserMax. Seeing as I got permission to use a certain tournament video on YouTube to react to, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm gonna be breaking down 3 matches. I'm going to go through them entirely, and then I might pause, look back, and see what there is to take away from the matches. All of those matches, the 3, coincidentally contain Sentient, which, as it turns out, when you have a brain-dead smashing longsword Ryoko just going aggressive all over the place, it brings out the interesting parts of other players. Okay, Sentient versus Hoodie. And so, yeah, Sentient goes right in, jumps, constantly going for attacks into jumps, into more attacks. Sort of what you'd expect. Pretty easy to just start beating on a judgment. Not much you can do to fight back. Let's see, the Ash doesn't get punished. There he does a B2, whiffs it, and he gets killed. You can see that a lot from Hoodie, that he attacks to fight back, but the only reason he has to attack is because he lets Sentient get close by standing still and blocking. There he does an attack. Another attack, they both hit, which is good. Then he does another attack and gets whiff punished. So that was the time to back up into the wall and wall run or something like that. Now he blocks, which means he's not moving, and there, you saw it. No. That fight happened. Let's see. If you didn't quite catch that, this is the exact reason for why you should never stand still and block against the Ryoko. Look at that. Hit right in the side. If someone is playing as aggressive as Sentient, it's impossible to slow yourself down by blocking for that long. If he doesn't immediately hit your block the moment you do it, what you should be doing is you should stop blocking and move out of the way, because there is no way you're gonna come out in favor from remaining in the block. At the very least against a Gian Ryoko. And this is a mistake I did too when I was playing against Sentient's Gian Ryoko, although it worked well against his longsword Ryoko. And this is a stupid air attack because Sentient is hardly doing any heavies, and he's not shuffling enough either. He's just jumping, and so yeah, the chances of that air actually catching anything was minuscule. Nice parry, reckless B2. I mean, that's just bad game feel right there, that B2. Look, yeah, that didn't get punished. This B1 hits, but the knockback is so high, there's no way a B2 would land here. He's just... he just lashed it out because he thought it would combo against the wall, but it was a poor angle and he slided. The knockback made him slide against the wall. And so this is sort of what you'd expect. I think this is a bad example of how a longsword judgment against a Gian Ryoko would go. Or just Ryoko in general. I think this could have gone much better if he blocked for briefer moments, like tap blocked and then backed away if Sentient was too far away. I think he should be moving backwards and sideways way more and attacking way less. And if he's gonna attack, he's gonna have to rely much more on charged attacks, and tier 1 attacks are pretty bad with judgment. Now this is more of a total coincidence, but I also play longsword judge in this tournament, in this match, and I do it against Sentient's Ryoko, although he uses longsword first. And I end up doing way better. Not because I'm necessarily a better player, but I just so coincidentally happen to have a better strategical understanding of the matchup, and so I was able to put up a better effort. And you'll see that right away. The advice I gave to Hoodie, I was applying. I charge, I get hit, that's okay, B1. B2 hits, that wasn't really worth it, I get traded for anyway. I block, which is okay. It's way more viable to block in general against longsword, because it has more lock time than Gian. But then he does that, I back off instead of trying to punish, which is good. And yeah, that was bad of me. intercept, takes them back. This first round goes horribly because I get put up against the wall, and there I try to go for a grab, and then I go for it again, and it didn't get counter grabbed. And then I gain a golden opportunity. Look, he missed the punish because he went to the left where the parry linger on the sword is more active. And so I recognize this super late, because the only reason that B2 hits is because he thinks that I was not gonna attack. See, I go into block. And so he starts up an attack as well. And so he dropped his punish on me, I dropped my punish on him, then he dropped his punish on me, and he gets hit. And yeah, it's a lot of chaos, and the memes in the chat too. But anyway, it's gonna get better. You're gonna see that I held my block because it was closer to me earlier. And so now you're gonna see me do other stuff, charging, which is good, bad B2, but at that range it's harder to punish. He goes in, gets a little damage, not that bad. I chase him down with a charge. Did I jump there? Oops, not that. Yeah, I jumped, which actually allowed me to close more distance, because jumps increase move speed. And then I back off, not trying to push for damage. Then I use charged attacks to gain more, to gain an advantage. He goes in and he can't. That B2 is bad, and he just barely gets that. More charged attacks, I hit it, it's pretty good. Yeah, so see, I actually get to hit my stuff if I do charged attacks, because they're just so much higher quality. And there I get a beautiful F3 because it went recklessly in. And this is going rather great. I have a solid defense. I release that early, not trying to fight it. Charge, stay back, get hit low. And here, right here, you see? I jump backwards, then I block, but I see that he isn't close enough and he jumped. There was no way he was going to hit my block. And so I let go of block immediately, shuffle backwards, and I end up hitting him because he thought he could get to my block. And so this is what you really want to be doing. Exactly. You want to make sure you're not stuck in one place. You want to make sure that you're moving to a place by the time he gets to the place you were. This is absolutely essential against Ryoko, because in almost every situation you're in, he's gonna be able to either whiff punish what you do or interrupt what you do. At the very least, if you're playing against a good one. And so you can't really afford to bet on your attacks ever hitting him. The matchup between Judge and Ryoko, it kind of... the best way to explain it from the judge's perspective is that the match doesn't play itself. Meaning, if I go for an attack, even if it's well spaced, I'll probably get hit for it, no matter how good I space it. And so, you cannot rely on spacing alone. It's beyond my comprehension how consistently Ryoko can hit judgment out of every attack he does. And there, I just barely win it because he went for an incorrect F4 play. He tried to go for it straight to the left side for positioning instead of hitting the F4. So this last match against Ekyo, Sentient is still playing. This is one of those matches which I find really entertaining to watch. I thought it was probably the best match at the time when I first started looking back on this tournament, the moment it got on YouTube. But one of the things that's so amazing about this is it's the two sides of the extreme, the really aggressive Ryoko player and the N1 player, right? It's like N1 versus full out aggression. And it's rather close, which is rather surprising as well. But one of the most interesting things about this that I found is that this breaks the norm about what N1 is supposed to be and what offense is supposed to be. Because most people will have this image about N1 being extremely repetitive and just doing the same thing all over again. And then aggressiveness being sort of creative and varied in a sense, that there's a lot more attacks going on. But this matchup actually displays the sides reversed, because Sentient, who plays a really offensive style, has a really small selection of attacks he uses. F1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5, B1 and all the heavies in tier 1. And then he charges sometimes. That's about it. Meanwhile, Ekio is using a lot of gimmicky and rather creative attack choices all the time, and he rarely ever goes into a complete lockdown with the balanced left charges. He does sometimes, but he's way more creative, and so this is sort of like the roles being reversed, where the offensive player is being boring and brain dead, and the defensive player is pulling out all the tricks and being flashy. And so with that, let's see how it goes. Heavy gets punished, tier 3. Oh yeah. Oh, he tried to go for heavy right there, but one of the things about Pure is that she has such a good balanced left tier 3. That tier 3 attack is so good in so many ways. It's quick, it's got speed, it side cancels and just has low lock time overall. It's one of those moves that either hits or it doesn't hit and you're safe. And so you can attempt it all day every day unless someone rushes you down before you get to tier 3. And so if you space the charge correctly, it's super obnoxious to deal with, but it works. And so that's sort of interesting. There isn't really any other character with that good at tier 3 that you can constantly hit people with. And so it goes for more balanced left charges, balanced right gimmicks, balanced right, another heavy right. Those heavy rights are so slow, but he goes for them. He doesn't quite get punished, and he'll probably hit some. He goes back into lockdown down defense. It's interesting how Ekio decides to play defensively at health disadvantage constantly against Sentient, but despite it being weird, it's such a good idea, because Sentient isn't really all that good at defending. When Sentient has health advantage, he doesn't really cause a lockdown to happen. It's kind of like Ekio can take back the match rather conveniently anytime he wants. And so even if the timer is running somewhat low, he doesn't have to have the pressure on him, because he will just play more consistently over a larger course of time. Yeah. And now take a look at Sentient. He's going really aggressive. Sentient's overall style and game plan and attack choice, none of it changes a single time throughout this clip. I've seen it so many times, and all of his other matches, it's like he doesn't know what the word variation means, but it still works. And there Ekio goes for a lash out, as I like to call it. And the whole idea behind this is Ekio typically does 1 or 2 hits and then backs off. What that means is that if you do 1 hit and back off every time, suddenly your opponent is gonna start walking forward and getting back into range immediately after you hit them. And so you're teaching them to get in an offensive pattern. And then next time suddenly you just decide to change, and then you hit like 3 or 4 attacks in a row and burst them down because they keep holding forward after you hit them. And that's so useful to intentionally sacrifice damage in an early game state to set your opponent into getting hit more later. Like, that's quite masterful. And you can see that Ekio doing that once or twice throughout all of these matches. This is like, best of a lot, best of 5 possibly. There's a lot of footage, but you run out of things to analyze because of how repetitive Sentient plays, and eventually Ekio just starts rotating between different stuff he does. Heavy right. Oh yeah, it's more or less a sin that there's absolutely no whiff punishing of the sentence heavy is happening. Heavy right, heavy 1, even heavy left, I think, should all be whiff punishable if you use the correct attack choice. So if you theoretically wanted to do that with pure, you would just like get on string 2 by whiffing a fast right in the air, and then you would stay on string 2 and try to whiff punch with that, with the B2. Not sure if he's just unaware, or maybe, well, there isn't really any excuse for playing any given character in the game and not trying to whiff punish those. Even if you try, you're not always gonna manage, but it's better to punish it sometimes than not at all. Yeah, another thing about this match is that Sentient has absolutely no knowledge of how to deal with the shurikens. You can see here, those unblockable shuris, fuck off, right there. Because he doesn't know that if you walk forward against someone throwing a shuriken and they throw it up in the air, it will curve and hit your back. But that's almost impossible if you walk backwards or walk to the side and force the shuriken to curve diagonally down to your head instead of just straight over. And so you can go sideways or backwards, doesn't matter, just don't walk into a shuriken. Unless you of course want to walk straight forward and then turn your camera back, so it'll block behind you, but you'll turn around and it'll hit in front anyway. It's sort of gimmicky, but if you really want to go with it, that's what you should do. And so yeah, he doesn't really know that, and so Ekyo can get away with a lot of shuriken cheese. That's not even the only reason. Another reason is just that Sentient is overall afraid of shurikens, and he doesn't ever go in if he sees Ekyo winding up one. Which it's the opposite of what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is you should stay in tier 1, wait for the opponent to throw the shuriken, and the moment you see it, you walk to the side slightly, and then if he commits to the shuriken, you start charging to ignore the block stun, walk up and hit them. And that will get them like every time. You walk sideways, which will mess with the curve and all, and the range of the shuriken if you walk diagonally to the side. And then if he commits, you charge. If he doesn't, you just stay where you are. And with the charge stack in there or something, back off. It's like rather straightforward. There isn't really any excuse for dealing with the shurikens this poorly. If you're a good player, you should be able to shut it down more or less entirely, with the few exceptions of when shurikens are actually supposed to be applied. Like when you're far away and you're hitting tier 3, that's a guaranteed shuriken more or less. Wall running and that stuff. Dash. If you dash, you're vulnerable to shurikens. Nice dodge. Low health. Yeah, not much else to be said. Yeah, there's one of those really good well-timed shurikens. That's really hard to avoid. Because even if you were to do anything before tier 3, almost all the other options would get him hit by the shuriken anyway. Like let's say he sees him wind up the shuriken, he could throw out the attack sooner than tier 3, but he'll just get hit, or grab cancel, get hit. I guess his best bet would be to try to time the tier 2 attack so that the swing blocks the shuriken. That's really hard. Possible though. More balanced left charge defense. He's doing it at a really good range, and it's surprising that Sentient is just letting it happen. As far as I'm concerned, it's not really all that hard to shut it down. At least with longsword, you could walk forward before Ekyo hits tier 2. Oof. Burst down. Yeah. Suddenly, he just goes for all the attacks and Sentient walks into all of it. It's beautiful. But yeah, balanced left, tier 1 is so slow that you can just walk forward before they hit tier 2, and if they release the attack early, in tier 1 you block. That's what you do. I think you can even block a balanced left-on reaction if you just wait to see it, so long as it's tier 1. That's getting punished. One thing I don't think is utilized enough by Echo is the fast right, because it's faster than fast 1, 2, and 3 for Miracle. So you should be exploring that for equal parries and forcing equal parries to happen more often. And so he can sort of use fast right as a footsie tool when he sees Sentient go in, because of how generous the timing is. He doesn't need to hit it, he just needs to minimum parry, and then he can do another one, and he'll out-prioritize the Ryoko. There's all the fast rights. Nice that he recognizes he can use it there. It's parried by a heavy. And so, yeah, there he actually gets punished for a shuriken for once, but it had to absolutely miss, and there again. It shouldn't be necessary for the Sentient to just dodge the shurikens, because you can't really curve it above someone's head if you don't have enough distance. If you're too close, it's not possible for it to go above the head, it'll just fly up in the air too high. And so, sticking closer to Ekyo will just shut the shurikens down entirely. It doesn't matter if he fakes them, it doesn't matter if he throws them, because they can't go through your outer block if you're too close anyway. And so it's kind of weird how he decides to deal with it by staying at range. As I said, it doesn't seem to have the game knowledge about it. It's like a Blade Symphony classic to throw the shuriken up into the air to make it go behind them and hit them. Checkmate. There's a couple of other okay matches, but not much to analyze. There's so many different mistakes being committed in this tournament that you wouldn't notice, but it's sort of hard to explain. It's like the top level play in Blade Symphony isn't very refined, so there's a lot of basic shit not getting punished even in the highest level. Which is sort of weird. There isn't really any like 10 moves you have to punish in Blade Symphony. There isn't really a video like that. The game knowledge just isn't all that widespread. Anyway, laser out.